Welcome to the push-up competition. Sudden death. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gamers Lounge podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me as always is Nathaniel and Robert, finally, after a half hour of technical issues. I just don't even understand. It doesn't even make sense, but, whatever.
Everything works fine the last time. The next time it's going to crash.
Apparently. Because, a week ago, me and Danny recorded everything just fine, and then this week I opened it up and everything's screwy and whatever. I don't even understand, and at this point I'm just happy to finally be able to figure out. I couldn't even get the stream to work right, so go fig. Whatever.
I'd worry if everything worked right the first time.
I don't know, I guess. And it worked perfect the first time. That was the bad thing. We didn't have any issues the other day other than setting up the sound. Once I got the sound up, boy, it was good. But whatever. It's a new computer. I guess I just need to sit and play with everything more. So, or just find new software to do everything with, because I think that might be the thing more than anything, is I just need to find new software. But I'm kind of one of those guys that when I get something that works, I don't usually like to switch. But since it's not working, I guess it's okay to switch, right?
When it stops working, it's like it was working, and then it starts to not work because it's getting older or whatever reason. Then it's time to be like, well, fine. Get rid of you then.
I've had enough. Whatever.
Stupid little piece of software giving me too many headaches for your worth.
Yeah. It's the story of my life, but that's all right. No big deal. But we'll start off like we always do. Yes, we're early today, but that's because it's early afternoon in Hawaii for Robert to join us. I didn't figure he wanted to have his entire afternoon if we started at 10 o'clock like we usually do. So if you're on the East Coast, you're like, wait a minute, it's like 6:30. What's going on with that? That's what's going on, because it's only noon over there, which is weird.
It just means you're not tired. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not time. I'm not tired. I'm not tired at all. I'm not going to drink this 5-hour energy before the show. That's not anything. That's not what I'm sitting here shaking up. So that's not what I'm doing at all. No, not at all. So, but like I say, we'll start off with what we've, like we always do, with what we've been playing, what we've been doing. I'm just going to share real quick what I've been playing, because it's the same old stuff. Still playing Ghost of Tsushima. I did buy Avengers for the Xbox One, since Dennis got it the other day. So hopefully maybe me and him can play some. It's a lot better than the beta. It's fun. Still got a couple bugs in it that really aggravate me. Like when you're doing a mission and it says, defend this position, and if it gets 100%, you lose. And when you start the mission, it's at 98%. I did the same mission over 5 times, and then finally, like the sixth time, it was like, oh, look, that mission started out at 0 finally. So I don't know what's up with that, but
Are you maybe connecting into an in-progress mission somehow for some weird reason? Like,
I don't know. I specifically said I didn't want to play online, that mission online with anybody, so it was just like I just went because it was the first one I did. I'm like, no, I'll just wait before I do that, and turned around and was like, why is this at like 98%? And then I die. You know, all the mission failed. Okay, let's start again. It's 92%. All the mission failed, and then magically it was like 5% after the 6th try, and I'm like, okay, that's really weird. So there was something buggy with that. So, but nothing better than the first co-op mission you could do with friends to have bugs in it, you know. But go figure. So, but other than that, I mean, I really haven't played a whole.
Who are
lot
you
of
playing as your main?
I haven't even got to a point where I could play anybody as my main. This was literally my first story mission where I could choose to play as Hulk or Ms. Marvel. Those are the 2 options I had because I hadn't unlocked anybody else yet. You know, most of the story so far has been the single player story where you play as Ms. Marvel for a little while, and then you play as Hulk, and then you go back to Ms. Marvel, and then you know, so I haven't got far enough in it to even be able to pick a main. But when I do, it'll probably be Thor because that's the one in the beginning that I like to play with was Thor. So that's probably who I'll go with as a main whenever I unlock him. I don't know. I'll try to play some more tonight maybe and see if I can get a little farther in it, but we'll see. So, Robert, since you haven't been here in a while, what have you been playing?
Yeah, unfortunately, not a lot. I'm really late to the party, so I put a little bit of time into The Last of Us Part 2. I loved the first one, and I'm about halfway. I peeked at the chapter list to kind of see where I was at, and I mean, it's good. I think it might be overhyped a little bit. You know, I stayed away from impressions as I wanted to kind of go in and.
How dare you say that a Sony game is overhyped?
I mean, it's really, really good. Like it's polished, it's gorgeous. I'm not getting the hook. And for me, with Last of Us, it was the story that hooked me, and it's not a bad story. It just doesn't feel like much has happened, and I think that's a problem if I'm halfway in. There's been some character development, which I think is
I could
good.
say about Last of Us 2, but nothing has happened is not one of the ones I would have said.
In the grand scheme of things, I mean, there's been stuff with individual characters that have happened, but I was really hoping to see more happen in the story around, but it's just so laser focused on, you know, Ellie's
different kind of story than the first
plot
game. The
of
first game
revenge.
Yeah, the first game has a little bit more of the broader, like, we're trying to reach the Fireflies' main goal or whatever for the whole game. This one doesn't quite have the same thing.
Yeah.
To it. So it feels it's a completely different kind of story. I think the game that, like, all my, like, whatever little issues with it have faded a little bit over time, and I appreciate it a lot more than when I was first kind of playing it. And I think that it's not overhyped as far as just like technicality and all that stuff goes. It's a freaking insane, all the stuff they pulled off with that game, like at a technical level. It's just kind of like the story level is like, you told it pretty well. There's some stuff I might change in this story, but it's also not the story I wanted. So it doesn't feel the same as the first game. Plus, it's a sequel, so you're not getting any of that kind of surprise that you had with the first game of like, this is brand new. So they definitely had a uphill climb on that one.
Yeah, and as I'm playing it, like, I don't want my time with it to end. Like, I'm having a really good time. I don't think the gameplay is doing anything revolutionary. It's definitely evolutionary from the first game, where I think it's, you know, kind of perfected what it was going for. I like some of the cool new things I can build and do in there. I think Ellie plays a lot better than Joel in the first game, but there's just nothing like crazy that I'm like, oh man, this is, you know, genre defining, which I don't know if specifically it was trying to do, but it does everything that it's doing very well. It's gorgeous. The gameplay is tight. The production values are insane. So I don't really have any issues per se. Is it just didn't like push the bar for me personally.
Right.
Really like the gameplay in this one. They definitely like took like, here's what Last of Us 1 did. Let's like add a few other things in it, and then all the stuff that's like shared, we're gonna like iterate on it and polish it to the nth degree, and it plays very well, but it's also not playing like your goals and things you're doing in levels aren't really that much different than the first game as far as like you're moving through an environment. You have like these options to you to try and go stealthy or go loud or but it does do something in this game that's fun for how you go in and out of stealth works pretty well. So the option to run away can be there in a lot of the levels. So I don't know. I think with Ellie and stuff in there, I just don't like the way they took her character, but the way she plays is fine. And
yeah,
I don't know
and I
that
don't
you're
want to
actually
say
halfway
too much
through,
about it. Okay.
unless you know what the big twist is. Like, not the early big twist. There's so many big twists in this game. It's so hard to do and be vague about it.
Yeah, and I don't really want to get into it,
Yeah.
especially on air, but I think I know what you're saying from the initial twist, and I mean, it wasn't really much of a twist per se, as it was kind of a shocker.
Yeah.
That specific thing happened when it did.
But I'm talking more specifically kind of a gameplay twist, sort of. Not really twist, but yeah.
I don't know.
So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're not halfway through the game.
Maybe not hour-wise, just strictly looking at the chapters.
Very, very much longer than I thought it was going to be when I played through. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, here I think I'm about this far. Like, no.
Well, that's good because I don't want the experience to end. So I mean, I'm looking forward to whatever they decide to throw at me. I'd have to say that right now my least favorite part of the game was in the early stages, kind of the semi-open world part of it. I was just a little bored in that area. I didn't really enjoy that environment so much as the more linear areas. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much the only area that's like that wide open. And that one, if you know where you're going, you can go and run through it and skip all the optional stuff too if you really wanted to.
I'm just taking my time.
But yeah, the first time you're just like, I want to see everything, and you can make that area last a lot longer.
Yeah, and I think that might even be part of my problem is I'm spending so much time in each area to just like really soak in the details that it might even be a little detrimental to my experience because the details are really great as like background and like fleshing out the world. But then when I really dive into it, then I start seeing like, oh, this seems like a repeating texture on this window, or this is another model that I've seen previously, and things just then start to stick out more. But I want to make sure that I'm getting as much out of it as possible.
That's a technical thing about that game, though, that I think that you have to really, really, really hunt for some of that. Like, sure, you're going to have some similar objects, right? Like, they're going to, decorate a shop with some, like, cluttered, broken bottle or whatever lying around. But it's generally stuff that would make sense for that. But, like, just environment-wise and stuff, you may be going down different like streets and they all feel different. They don't feel like, okay, we copy pasted this building like some other games might. Like, maybe an asset or two, but there's so many unique things, just like environments, buildings, like things throughout that whole game. They generated a ton of stuff for this game. It's ridiculous. And just on a technical level,
it's really kind of nitpicky the way.
Like, there's so many really cool things about that game. You might not like how the game quite plays, doesn't hook you, or you might not like the story, but just watching a scene on its own, you'd be like, it hits you like, most games don't look this good. Like, they spent a ton of money on this, and it's all here. So
it does a really, really good job. And as I'm saying, these things that don't quite stick out to me as good things, they're so nitpicky that I think that just kind of goes in its favor that it really is an outstanding game. It's just for me going into it off of the highs from, The Last of Us. I think we all had this expectation of it that was a little bit unrealistic.
Sure. I mean, even within the universe, there's so many different stories that they could have told following up from Last of Us Part 1. And I think some people had unrealistic expectations of, we like these characters, so nothing bad can happen to these characters. and if anything bad happens to them, I'm not gonna like it. And then they were angry about Last of Us Part 2. I didn't quite have that. I just didn't like exactly the story they told as much as I might have liked
Yeah,
the
no, I
different
mean,
direction. But it's fine. They told kind of their story they wanted to. I think probably one of their big goals with this game too is just getting that performance capture stuff to the next level, so that just technically it can just people can look at it and be like, wow, this was definitely one of their goals.
yeah, and I totally understand that. I'm trying to just let it tell its story to me. I never really went in with a expectation of the story, so I'm totally cool with that. And I just hope that the story picks up for me personally. Hopefully, it resonates a little bit more. But we'll see.
Well, that's
Most
like
of my issues with the game was like towards the very end of it as like where they kind of chose to go with it, and then like a couple little beats here or there. But yeah, like most of it was like it was fine.
yeah, it's like me with Tsushima. I'm spending too much time going around and not sticking to the main story parts. I'll go over here and then I'll go over here and get way far away and then have to come back. And it's like, nope. It would be a more way and it'd be a more enjoyable game if
Yeah.
I would just do a few of those and then go do the main storyline and then come back and do a few of those and do. The trouble is this is what happens when you play open world games.
Yeah, well, that's not what Last of Us is.
No, and that's good.
It has that one area that he was talking about fairly early on, once you get kind of through the prologue, I guess, of the game or the opening chapter, and then it like goes for the or towards the rest of the story. You have kind of that one area that's open, then it doesn't do that anymore. It's all pretty linear, but it just has wide corridors sometimes where you can have choices of how you navigate through it, but it's still like go that way for most part in that game. Except for that one early area where it's just like, hey, you need to go to kind of this way, but you can go around all these little buildings if you really, really want to.
I will say that I do love how natural the puzzles feel in the game. I'll be walking through an environment, and since I am spending so much time in each area, I'll just see something cool, and then I get to there's a safe here. Oh, that's cool. I just read this anniversary date over here that just looked like it was decoration, but turns out it was the combination for this lock. It's the first time I
all
haven't
that,
really felt like I need to look that stuff up, at some point.
yeah, all that stuff they did pretty good. There's lots and lots of fun environmental storytelling that they do that way too, with just one, just what's there, and then two, just kind of some of the letters and things you can pick up too. There's tons of that if you want to go look for it.
All right. Cool. So, Nathaniel, what have you been playing? I know you said you had new games to talk about when we were.
I'm not playing God of War anymore because I finished it last time we recorded before then. So I got a couple of indie games on Steam, and then I started playing one that I think you got me at Christmas time that I'm finally playing because it did full release.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Hades just came out like not even a week now, like a few days ago, to 1.0 release at the same time that they announced it was coming out on Switch that day. It was like, hey, it's just full release on every platform.
I had forgot about that because I
Yeah.
went, man, that game sounds really familiar. Why have I heard this? So I pull up my PR emails thinking that I read it in that, and I'm like, well, no, I didn't get any PR. And now that you mentioned, like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's how long it's been. 2020's been a long year. It's been,
Yeah. Well, like Hades has been in early access for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it's always like had a good reputation, and every time they put out a new update, everyone's like, yeah, they added some cool stuff to it. And I've been watching all of the no clip documentaries on it because they've been following them while they were kind of making the game. I think they put 3 or 4 episodes out now, and so I know a lot, kind of at least in general, about it, but I never really played it until now. And it's awesome. It's the best game Supergiant's ever made, and like all their previous games are really good. Like this is the game that they never could have made if they hadn't made Bastion and Transistor and Pyre, because it's kind of taking all of the stuff they learned from those and then making this one. It feels a lot like Bastion just because of the type of combat that's in it.
Okay.
It's not like turn-based or the weird stuff from Pyre. It's very much like Bastion, where it's kind of like isometric rooms you're running around, and you have different weapons and abilities and stuff. It's just way more of it in this game than Bastion ever had, and Bastion had quite a bit in it for the time. and the art style is just like way more polished and stuff than they've done in their previous games, just because they've spent so much time to put in so much stuff into it, and because of the whole early access process, they've had plenty of time to kind of build it as they went,
Right.
getting feedback as they go. So I've played about 4 or 5 hours of it so far, so I'm not like super far in. I think there's 6 total weapons that you can get in the game. I've played with 4 of them because there's kind of 4 sitting there that you start with a sword and you can unlock a bow, shield with some blades on it, and a spear. And those are all sitting there from the start. And then there's 2 kind of blank spaces that are question marks that I'm assuming I will unlock somehow in the future. But you have kind of like Hades Sanctuary, because you play as the son of Hades, and you're all trying to escape. And every time you die, you come back because it's doing the whole roguelike formula. So it's all based on like, hey, here's your kind of loadout for this run. If you want to change it or do the same as the previous one, that's up to you. And you go out until you get killed, you come back, and then you can make a few upgrades and go out and try again and then come back.
Yeah.
Which is very much like any other roguelike that you've probably ever played. But they have a lot of story in this one. So Supergiant, for all of their games, has done a bunch of things really well. One of those is like the writing and storytelling with like the characters and just the story that they're telling and kind of world building. All of that's here. Like, it's not as story light as what you might think of because, oh, it's a roguelike. How could they put story in it? Well, play this game. That'll show you how. Because every time you come back, there's new like dialogue and things when you talk to all the people there. And even sometimes when you're out in the dungeons, you'll meet another character, or you'll get a message from one of the Olympic gods, and you'll get a little dialogue section. And through that, they're building story as you go, which is kind of cool. So, like, you also kind of like Bastion, you unlock kind of different rooms in your hub area. So, like Bastion, you had your little island, you're kind of like building buildings and stuff to it. This is a little different where it's all there, but you're like, the door's unlocked now, so you can get into this room. And then there's different like items you can get that will give you different buffs. You get like different power-ups on your runs, and then you get different things before you go. There's a permanent, so sometimes it's different per run. Like, oh, hey, you randomly found this item. Now you have lightning damage on your weapon, or and there's different things you can pick from when you get it up to get like a boon from one of the gods that you pick it up. Like, hey, you can have lightning on your weapon. You can have your dash will have like some sort of lightning related ability because you picked up Zeus's thing. And so you get to kind of pick as you go, and then the next run you'll get completely different stuff, and so it makes it feel different every time you go. And it's like super smooth, super tight. Each weapon plays completely differently, and so if you like kind of switch it up each time, it'll definitely keep it from getting stale. So again, 4 or 5 hours in, haven't done hardly any of the content that's there, but what I've seen is awesome so far.
Yeah, I'm tempted to buy it on Switch.
It'd like probably be fun on Switch, but some of the art is pretty detailed that I don't know that it would go good in handheld mode.
Yeah.
Because it might be a little difficult to kind of just see all the stuff flying around the screen at once.
Yeah.
Because you might have like a bunch of projectiles and things teleporting and flashing through. It's pretty quick action.
Yeah.
So being able to see kind of what's there would be important.
I tried to watch the video last night, the trailer that they have on the eShop, and I don't know if it was the trailer or if it was the eShop. Man, that video kept buffing for some reason, and it was like I couldn't watch it long enough to tell anything. That's what I try to do on the Switch. Is like I'll pull up a trailer and watch a trailer just to kind of get an idea of what the game is, as far as gameplay wise. So if it's like something that's really really tiny, it's like I don't know if that'll work real good in handheld mode, because I've got this small area.
Yeah, you're a fairly smallish character on the screen,
so I may end up.
And then you're like you'll have dialogue windows pop up with like nice big key art of the character, and that would be fine on Switch. But I think just the action, there's so much stuff happening really quickly that it might not be super easy to see on the Switch screen in handheld mode just because of it being at 720p.
So it's only,
I mean, it could be fine. I don't know. I don't have it on Switch. I've been playing on PC. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Like all of their art, they did it in high super res, so it's super super crisp, and they've got a ton of really good like just animations and everything and transitions between stuff. It's super polished. It's really really nice.
Yeah. Doesn't look like it as of right now. It's coming to any other console. No,
Oh, it will be at some
I'm
point.
sure it will be at some point. Right now, it's
Because
just
all their
Switch,
previous
right?
games have been pretty much everywhere, so
Yeah.
it's probably it was more of they wanted to do early access this time, so they did it through Epic first, and then it came out on Steam, and it was even on Steam for another full year before almost before now coming out to full release, and it wasn't even announced for Switch until not that long ago. So I'd be surprised. I bet they probably would have done it earlier if COVID hadn't happened. They might have been able to work on it a little bit more, but even then, maybe not because they're not a huge company.
Yeah. I don't know. I totally forgot about it until I saw all of a sudden I saw everybody starting to tweet about it, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, I remember that.
I'm betting it'll be on PlayStation and Xbox, and within the next year at most.
Oh
Who knows?
yeah.
I don't know how long it would take to port it, but I wouldn't think it would be too crazy to port the PC version over to the even PS4 and Xbox One plus the new consoles coming out. Like maybe
Yeah.
they'll have it on both. Who knows?
Yeah,
We'll
I
find
guess
out.
so. Yeah. So
But it's good enough game. It needs to be everywhere so that everybody can play it.
and
Because
I'm sure it will be. I
it's
can't
one of the
wait for
best
it.
things I've played this year. It's really good. I can't wait to dive more into it because I can tell already there's just so much cool stuff to unlock that I haven't even gotten to yet. Because like, hey, I've unlocked 2 of these items and there's a whole row for like a couple dozen total. And it's like, all right, I want to get all these things and see what they do.
Yeah. Cool.
I also got a small indie game called BPM Bullets Per Minute. It is basically a first-person shooter rhythm game.
Okay.
So kind of like, what if Doom had music and everything you did was on the beat?
All
That's
right.
kind of what it is, except a little more washed out
Sounds pretty
generic.
sweet.
Because I think it's 2 people or 3 people or something. It's not very many people who made this game. And it's very limited in the look of it. They kind of, I think, if I understand right, they even just like took stuff from like the asset store from whatever engine they were running it on and borrowed a bunch of pre-made assets to build this, and then they just kind of put like a color wash overlay on it so everything looks very red or very yellow or whatever depending on what level you're in. So graphically it's kind of like fine, but the fun part is the hook. It's similar to what is that, the roguelike that was the rhythm game.
Oh,
My brain is failing me now. It's like, come on, I played it, I liked it a lot.
I know what one.
But it's kind of like take a genre of a game and then like, what if it was a rhythm game? Is pretty much what these guys did.
Yeah.
So you run around freely, but anytime you fire your gun or reload it, it has to be on the beat. And there's some stuff in the settings you can tweak to be like how tight or loose the timing is, or there's even like an auto timing thing I think in there too. And so you're running around, and even some of the reload things, you have multiple states, like 2 or 3 times you have to hit the reload button in order for it to actually fully reload your gun. But they've got such great sound effects in this game that feel like they're part of the music when you're doing it. So it nails that whole rhythm game feeling of like when you're doing it right, it feels great because you're just like grooving with the music and like killing all the enemies, and you got a cool treasure chest that popped up, get you a couple coins so you can go into the shop and buy that new weapon or whatever, and then you end up screwing it up and you die and you restart because it is also a roguelike. So it's randomly generated each time you go through rooms. You have some like bats flying around, or like I forget. I've played it maybe an hour, so I haven't played a ton of it, but
yeah.
So I haven't gotten deep where there's probably better enemies, but the ones I hate the most are the bats because they fly around a lot. They're a little harder to hit, and they shoot these projectiles at you. So if there's a room with a lot of them, it's just like I'm dodging so much stuff at once.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
But yeah, the music is fun. Just go watch like a trailer or something of it, and
Yeah.
you'll get kind of an idea. But it's still a little bit different when you're actually the one hitting the buttons, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. It's like everything has this nice crunchy, clicky, like, and you're all doing it on the beat, so it's very rhythmic.
I'm gonna
Even
check
like
it
the
out.
reticle has like timing things like you see in rhythm games coming in. You can turn it off, I think, and have like a just plain reticle if you want. But
Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool.
it's a cool little game. I think it was $20,
Hey, can't beat
something like
that.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's anywhere other than Steam, but that's where I got it.
Mm.
I also got a game called Paradise Killer, and I've played like 10 hours of that now because I've been playing it all day today. I played a little bit before, and then I was playing a whole bunch more of it today. So it's basically a detective game, but a really, really weird setting. So you're in some weird alternate dimension where like the council or whoever it is in charge of this island or whatever, they have humans that they bring in that they then sacrifice to kind of like uh call gods or something or other. It's like a weird setup. But anyway, this whole council, the governing council, gets killed, and your character who has been in exile for like a bajillion days, I forget what it is now, gets brought in because you're like this super crazy investigator, and like, all right, we'll bring you back out of exile so you can hopefully figure out what happened, how did they all get killed, who did it, yada yada yada. And you're running around kind of like this big crazy island environment and picking up clues, talking to different characters. But it has this very, I don't know what kind of how I would describe the art style. It's very kind of like neon-y and pinks and like oranges, kind of like Miami but weirder. Because you've got some areas they have some like weird palm trees, and there's I don't know. It mashes a bunch of things together, but it's very very saturated colors in most areas, and it's definitely a lot of like pinks and like bright colors you don't see used as often in video games as much. It reminds me of crap. What was that game? There's some other indie game that was like a comedy game that had a similar style, but yeah, it's really really fun. Like all the characters are just like these flat sprites, and you go and click on them and go into a dialogue sequence where there's like a couple of minimal lines for each character that they would have voiceover, but it's mostly just text. And you're reading through it, and then you're choosing like, hey, ask them about this thing, ask them about that thing, and then you get like a piece of evidence that goes into your menu, and you can categorize it under like, this is their alibi, this is something that's against their alibi, and then you go and talk to someone else, or you go and investigate a scene, and you find, oh, hey, here's this thing that somebody dropped, and how does this relate? So it's finding tons and tons of clues and wrapping them all together, and then as you find some stuff, like another offshoot of an investigation shows up, they're like, hey, maybe this is related to the main thing, maybe not, how does this all connect? There's just a ton of that. It's really 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 fun. It's also it's kind of it's got this really just like weird kind of world building thing that it does that makes it a lot, I think, more interesting than if it was just like, hey, you're Sherlock Holmes detective or just a modern day detective or something. It uses its weird alternate dimension thing where there's like gods and other things running around, and it plays with that.
Yeah. Weird. That sounds cool.
And like when you're brought in, like they arrested this guy who is possessed by a demon, and he's obviously the one who did it, and then as you start investigating some, you're like, he's probably not the one who did it, or if he did, somebody controlled him to make him do it, used him as a tool, who knows. And so you find all these things, and at any time you can go in and present your case and like run a trial. So you could do it like within the first 10 minutes of the game if you wanted, and just totally accuse whoever the heck you wanted and have no evidence, and it probably doesn't go well. I don't know, because I didn't do that. I'm going around everywhere trying to pick up every single clue. But yeah, it's a cool game. It's got some interesting stuff. It's a little bit rough around the edges in a few spots, just as far as just how you're like running around. The jump physics are a little bit wonky here and there, but hey, there's no fall damage, so it doesn't matter.
Hey, fall damage, that's good.
You literally start the game by waking up in your kind of little weird apartment thing or whatever, where you've been exiled for forever, and you go out, like you unlock the front door gets unlocked so you can leave, and you just like jump like thousands of feet down to the ground, just land and be like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, I didn't break my leg or nothing or die or Lose a bar of health. Yeah.
Yeah, like this whole thing, there's like a weird thing where they keep remaking these islands, and you're on island version 24 is where you're at.
Yeah.
And everybody was going to be moving to 25, which is now the perfect one. We've worked out all the kinks. We're not going to have any like weird demon infestations this time. And then this happened, and you're like, well, what's going on? Why did it happen here? And it's like, how did the demons get in? Did they have anything to do with this? It's just like all sorts of just weirdness wrapped up in a giant, complicated package, and it's a lot of fun. I like it.
It's all right. Sometimes those are the best.
Yeah.
Weird.
But I mean, it's like this super weird, cartoony, bright, colorful look. Like if you do look up some screenshots or just the trailer for the game, you're like, oh, okay, that's totally unique.
Yeah. I was looking at it on the when it's something that I don't know. I always try to Google it while you're talking about it, and I'll take a look at it just to see, because a lot of them some of them like this one and the last one I never heard of. But yeah, it is very.
I don't remember where I heard about it from. It was like another podcast, or I saw a review somewhere, or what it was, and I put it on my list before it came out, or maybe that was the Bullets Per Minute. I definitely heard before it came out. I don't remember when. Paradise Killer hasn't been out that long. If I don't think so. I have to look.
The more I look at it,
Yeah, September 4 is when it came out on Steam.
The more I look at it, the more I think I'm on this. I think I've gotten a PR email about this because the cover looks familiar, and I don't know. It's been crazy with my PR emails because of PAX going on last weekend, the virtual PAX. I literally I don't know if it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I literally got 60 PR emails in one day, and just trying to go, just trying to look at all of them was ridiculous. And I've scanned over every one of them, but it was like I didn't really dive deep into it. And then the virtual thing's been going on off and on all week, so it's like, here's 20 more emails, here's 40 more emails. Oh, it's Monday, we won't bother you with emails. And then Tuesday, it's like,
it's like, here's all the emails we didn't send on Monday.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, you guys are killing me. I'm only one man. But all right, well, we got lots to talk about. Unfortunately, it's all about consoles that none of us have or have played or anything about. But I think it was, I want to say it was what, Monday? Was that when the Xbox leak happened? It was, or Thursday. I don't remember when it was. It was one day last week.
Like
a couple days after.
It was like a week and a half ago or something.
Yeah, it was over a week ago.
Yeah, it was shortly after we recorded the last show.
Yeah,
something
it was
popped
a few days
up
after
on,
that.
Yeah, something popped up on Twitter that was like, here's the Xbox Series X, and here's how much it's going to cost, and everything like this. Well,
I think that tweet was out like midnight or
Yeah.
sometime middle of the night Eastern time, and I woke up the next day. I was like, oh, hey, that's weird.
Yeah, I literally was getting ready to go to bed, and I was scrolling through, and I went, a leak at on a Tuesday night at like midnight? That's really strange.
I almost didn't believe it. There's always people estimating, guessing what the price is going to be. Oh, here's a leak from Amazon France. Like,
I never believe anything until I hear it from the horse's mouth. And when I went to bed, I went, I told somebody on Twitter, I said, I'll believe it when I see it. And then I wake up in the morning, and then Phil Spencer tweets out, yeah, we originally had this whole big thing where we were going to have a big reveal video next week with gameplay and the system, and we're going to announce this and we're going to announce that, but since it's all leaked, we're not going to do it. And it was like,
here's the question. If that had not leaked and we had like an Xbox kind of stream or whatever to reveal all that stuff this week, do you think we still would have had the Sony thing this week, or do you think that Sony said, okay, we'll do it now because Xbox stuff leaked the week before?
I don't know. I'm guessing we probably would have went ahead and had the Sony thing this week.
I think Sony would have been a little bit later. I think it would have been later.
We'll talk about it later, but the way that thing was put together, they could have had that whole thing put together for a long time, and then they just replaced the slide at the end with the prices because they don't have anything with any of the games talking about exactly when they come out. And then after the stream, we find out, oh yeah, this is a launch title. It's coming at the same time the console is. But it doesn't show that in the trailers within the whole thing. So it makes me think they've had this ready for a while, and they're just like, we're wondering when they were going to actually put it out.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things, and that's one of the things we'll talk about when we talk about the Sony stuff, because I have some thoughts on that too. But the Series S is $299. It's digital only. It only does 1440p, but it does do 120 FPS. It does support ray tracing, backwards compatibility,
Yeah.
all this and that. Which,
For all intents
honestly,
and purposes, it's the same box, just scaled down to work at a different resolution. Is pretty
right?
much the only big difference, at least what they say.
Yeah.
Now we'll see how it works when everybody gets their hands on it, but that's kind of what they're selling it
It's
as.
got a little. The GPU's a little slower, but not much.
But that doesn't matter because you're doing
Right.
1440p instead of
Exactly.
4K. So
A little less RAM, but not much.
yeah,
But again, you're not doing 4K, so you don't need that. And what's I go back and forth with. I may wake up in the morning and go, "Man, that was really smart of them to do this at $299. That is really smart." And then the next day, I may wake up and go, "I don't know. I think they're crazy." It's like, but
how?
I don't know. It's really interesting because nobody's ever done anything like this before.
Yeah.
And I saw an interview with Sony's president, and he says, "Well, we've done research, and what Microsoft is doing with the S just doesn't work." And I'm like, "What research have you done? Nothing like this has ever been done. So how can you say
Yeah,
it
some
doesn't work?
theories, but yeah.
Yeah, because you don't know. I mean, this is not like the 20 gig model and the 60 gig model of the PlayStation 3. This is not like that at all. This isn't even like Sony's disc and discless version.
Just
That
on
price
this and
point.
the other things they're doing with the kind of subscription service model to
Yeah.
get new consoles, but between those two things, I think that Microsoft is being very smart about like, here's all these options.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the small box, that's great. If you want the bigger box, that's also great. Here's what they cost if you buy it all at once. Here's what you cost and what you get with it if you do it as a subscription over a
Yep.
couple of years, so that it gives people in all sorts of different, financial situations or whatever, plenty of options to look and see if maybe they could get it or not. And I think that price tag is very attractive
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
they knew that
Yeah.
there's no way that Sony was going to be able to go that low
No.
on it unless they were doing the same type of thing where they have a scaled down box, which
Right.
is not what they're doing.
No.
So
And
I'm always the type of guy that thinks more options are always a good thing, right?
yeah,
And the thing for me is, how many people don't have a 4K TV? And I'm a little out of the loop on this, but it's at
quite a
this point
few.
they're pretty cheap though. I
yeah.
mean, when I had to replace my TV, we got one for the bedroom. I think it's a 50-inch TV, and it was like $300 for a 4K TV, a Samsung 4K TV. So I'm just
Still
like,
plenty of people who
Yeah.
don't have that, or like say, they're wanting, whoever's getting this console might be like their kid who has the leftover TV that's
Right.
still 1080 or
Well,
whatever.
I looked it up, and the only numbers that I could find were early or late last year, because I'm sure they only do them on a yearly basis. I think 47% of Americans have 4K televisions. That was
Where are they getting that data from? Then
well.
like,
I'm guessing they're getting it from sales. This is I forget
yeah,
where I read it at, but according to the report with the Nielsen ratings and stuff like that, only like less than 10% of those people are actually watching 4K content on it. So they're not using games, they're not watching 4K Blu-rays, they're not streaming 4K content.
yeah, because a big chunk of those, probably just like, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
need a new TV. I'll just go get one at the store because my old one broke, and they're
Well,
not paying attention to it as much. But then still, that's also, even if that's the true number, then there's still 50%
yeah.
that don't have 4K.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and
That's still a pretty big number.
I could see that because I think it was last year. I looked up one from 2018 to 2019, and it was 30. It was 25 or 30% was what it was. So it jumped up a little bit. But of course, you gotta remember, people when they replace a TV, chances are, with as cheap as they are, I mean, they're probably going to buy a 4K just because, not because it's 4K. Oh, that's a big
yeah.
TV. It's on sale.
In the last year or two, it's probably going to be a lot harder to go find a 1080p TV anyway, because most of them are 4K that you're just going to go to your big box
Well, and
store to buy.
I had a guy on Twitter today or the other day go, "Well, they don't even sell 1080p TVs anymore." I said, "Have you been to Walmart lately? Have you been to Best Buy? They still sell 1080p TVs, and they are extremely cheap for big screens because they want to sell you a 4K. They don't want you to buy a 1080p unless you want one. But I replaced my 1080p 16-year-old TV that still works fine with the 4K here, but I bought that 1080p TV, like I said, 16 years ago. It was $2,000. This one's 15 inches bigger, thinner, lighter, and 4K, and I paid $500 for it. It's ridiculous how cheap 4K TVs have gotten.
I think this cheaper console is going to be really good early on, but I don't think we're going to see it the whole generation. I'm pretty sure that in the next year or two, it's just not going to be made anymore. There might be an updated, cheaper model, but I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see the 4K numbers just skyrocket. People are looking for a reason to upgrade before they upgrade. No one's going out and just, well, I'm going to get a new TV. They have to have a reason to want a new TV. And, it's not required to have a 4K TV with our streaming services just yet. But, history has shown us that video game consoles do move that sort of medium, especially with things like Blu-ray being added in and whatnot. It wasn't until that happened that people really decided, oh, I need to get a 1080p TV is when people got their first PS3 Blu-ray player.
Right. Well, but you got to also think about PlayStation 4 Pros came out 4 years ago. How much did that move the needle for 4K? Probably not very much. I mean, I don't know.
But that was also being introduced when 4K was still in its infancy, and now we're at that same tipping point with we're starting to see just hints of 8K stuff. Not that the game consoles are really going to do much with that, but when you start going into the next generation of anything, that's when people adopt the other one because it's getting even cheaper. So I just don't know. It's strange. It's gonna be interesting to see.
What I'll say about that though is that the smaller Xbox will still look great on a 4K TV because 1440p with whatever upscaling that they have on there, because it said that it will upscale to 4K as far as what it's going on your thing. 1440p going up to 4K is not going to be as sharp as just like a natural 4K, a native 4K, but it still look really good.
Yeah.
Think of how even some 1080p content looks on a 4K TV that is upscaled, with some of the video content more than anything. It still can look pretty decent. If you get up closer, you can tell it's definitely not the same as 4K, but it still looks nice on there. It's not like, say, some of these older games that were from a couple consoles ago that are super low res, and then you put it up on a big 4K TV, or even some of the stuff on the Switch, you put it on a 4K TV, it just doesn't look super great. I don't think that if you're starting at 1440p, it's still going to look pretty good on a 4K TV.
And and I've got my M Classic that does 1440p, and I used it for a while. That upscales, it'll upscale my any 1080p or 720p image up to 1440p. I used it on the regular PlayStation and upped it on up the regular PlayStation to 1440p with it. And once you get a full 4K, does it look different? Yeah, but you're also
it's even different than what this would be, because you're taking something smaller, blowing it up to that, and then blowing it up again.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. You're not getting the, I don't know. To me, I think this generation, it's not 4K is not the end all be all. This is your benchmark. It's frames per second. It's it's better performance. We've got to a point with games that you could do 1440 or you can do 4K HDR, looks great, but if the performance sucks, what difference does it make? I think now we're getting
definitely both sides have been talking about frame rate a lot, and then load times, because we have SSDs now. That's the two kind of big things they're kind of pushing. Plus, 4K 60, but still.
Right, and I think that's going to be the thing with this, and you're going to have people who don't care about 4K, but will still be able to get ray tracing. the fast load times, the 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second or whatever at a $299 price point. The only thing that might hold it back is it's only got a 512 gigabyte hard drive, depending on how big games are going to be. And
For the initial run, that's not going to matter as much as people going out to buy an Xbox, sees that on the shelf and like, oh, that's cheap, I can get
Right.
that.
Yeah.
That's like anybody who's not super steeped in video games and paying
Right.
attention to the news all the time, they're gonna be like, oh, hey, that's a cool option. It's gonna take a little bit, but it'll be very similar, I think, to kind of more like phones.
Yeah.
As far as what Microsoft is gonna do, I wouldn't be surprised if we get new versions of these coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like they did with Xbox One, but I think maybe even slightly earlier than we saw on this current generation. We might see a new box in a couple years. Who knows?
Yeah. And the payment plans are $25 a month for Xbox Live Ultimate with the S, 34 for the Series X. That's all well, fine and good. If you could get approved,
a 2-year period, right?
Yeah,
if I remember,
2 years.
Yeah.
If you can get approved through the company that they do it with, and I will tell you right off the bat, that company is very particular about. Not every Joe Blow is going to be able to go in there and go, "Yep, I want to do the payment plan," and be able to do it. I think it's
weird because that should be marketed towards the people who can't afford to buy it outright. But if you need to have such great credit, usually that's the people who can just pay for it.
And I have decent credit. And when I was first thinking about getting a Series X, I tried to do that. I couldn't get approved for it. It's also the same people that do the financing for iPhones through Apple. I cannot get iPhone through Apple with financing through them. I have good enough credit that I can buy a house, but I couldn't get approved.
Yeah, same thing. I was able to get a home loan here in Hawaii, but couldn't get approved for the Apple Card.
Yep. Yeah, and
my credit's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's
my credit's over 9,000. What do you want?
Yeah, that's going to be the expectation.
Doesn't even exist. It's a wrong number.
So when they take pre-orders on the 22nd, I'm going to give it a shot, but just to see if I could get approved that way. I'm not counting on it because I didn't get approved the last time. So why would I think I would get approved this time? But we'll see. You'll be able.
How much of that is the third-party company's parameters, or if it's more like Apple saying, "Hey, make sure that it's this parameters you're looking at," and then this company, whoever contracts them, is more in charge, or if it's just them.
I'm guessing it's just the bank. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Probably,
yeah,
but
that's my understanding.
Yeah.
I was going to say Robert would know more about that because he works closely with with that company, so he would have some more insight on that than I would. But and apparently,
hey guys, what's up with this?
Yeah, and apparently GameStop is going to do their own kind of payment thing. You're either going to be able to lay it away and pay on it. You're going to be able to do a rent to own kind of thing, or you can do the payment plan like you can through Microsoft and or something like that. But they'll do it through both consoles, not just because Sony's not offering anything like that, which kind of surprises me. I thought maybe they might try to pull something out of their pockets, but they didn't. So the 22nd, like I said, 8 a.m. or 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern is when the pre-orders are going to open up. And
after all the which we'll get to with the stuff with Sony, Microsoft's kind of social media team has been on top of it.
Oh yes, they have. They
trying to
their entire marketing.
That knife a little.
Yeah,
their marketing has been outstanding. I love the transparency. It's great. There's been no bad news, so to speak.
Yeah. IGN talked to the Xbox director of programming, and he confirmed that install sizes for the S are 30% smaller than the X, which makes sense because
I think it's all part of their smart delivery stuff where you're just getting what you need, and that they're going to tailor it more per box this time around versus here's an install. You're going to put it on either your regular Xbox One or your Xbox One X. It's pretty much the same thing, except you might get some extra textures on top of it as an install pack or something. But yeah, they're gonna have to, because of that 500 gigabyte drive in there, pay attention more to that this time around. Hopefully it'll turn out a lot to where, because of the SSDs, supposedly they don't have to duplicate assets as much in their builds, so maybe that will help shrink some file sizes down.
Well, Well, I'll talk about that
Who knows?
in when we talk about the PlayStation, because I've got I saw a tweet right before an hour or so before we
Oh,
were
I
on
know what you're
live.
talking
Yeah,
about.
and
But I don't know that those count as much because they're still kind of
right,
like in that weird,
yeah,
we're still figuring it out phase.
that's what I was going to say. But anyway,
Yeah.
and the other thing with the Series S, it will not run Xbox One X enhanced versions. It will run Xbox One S, which makes sense because that's you're not getting that processor power anyway that you're getting on the X, and it's going to be two different kind of emulations. So
Or though it's a weird, dumb double standard of this is the one time Microsoft hasn't been super clear.
well,
And it's
here's
partly because it's just a little bit weird and hard to explain.
yeah,
But because this box it's basically here's the same thing, and then we just kind of like put it in a smaller box. And because the output resolution is different, yes, the processor's slightly slower and this and that, but it's still the same performance.
right.
It's because it's
It,
tailored to that size. Like, hey, what do we need to do to get the same performance but at this lower resolution? So
yeah,
because
from
of
what I
that,
can
the backwards
understand,
compatibility is just a little bit weirder. So it's hard to just say, hey, yeah, it's this or that.
Right.
It's hard to do.
correct me if I'm wrong, John, but from my understanding of what I read about the backwards compatibility is that it's everything except for the resolution jump. So you're still getting like the performance enhancements, the load times, and the frame rates. So they basically are just like it's the same thing. We're just not going to give you any resolution bump.
Right. Much past, it depends on game. It varies from game to game. And I saw an article that I read that was a lot better explaining of it. And I wish I could find it now because I don't know where I put it. I saved it somewhere, but it was like if this was a Xbox One game that ran at 480p, it will run at 1440p, and it will get this enhancement, this. If it's a 360 title that ran at 720p, it'll also run at 1440p with this enhancement. And if it's an Xbox One, it's just going to run at
I think
whatever.
the weirdness comes in trying to compare, okay, what's the difference between the Series S and the Series X as far as like you're trying to compare the backwards compatibility for an old game. But if like you're not going to own both of those boxes. You're going to have one or the other.
Right.
You're still going to get an enhanced experience either way or at the very least, it will run better on that than it did with the previous generation, whatever backwards compatible game you're playing. So I don't know. It seems like getting lost in the details is a little bit of like, wait, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. You can play these games still.
Exactly.
They'll play great. It'll be awesome.
Yep,
like,
they'll play great. They'll play a little better. They'll probably run a little smoother, regardless of. And I've seen a lot of people when the S was officially announced that went, you know what, I don't care about playing in 4K. I'm happy with 1080p. That's what I play on. I'll probably buy this for my Xbox game so I can play Game Pass. I can play my first party games, and then I'll just buy a PlayStation 5 to play as my main console, and this $299 version will be my other console to play.
It have a benefit of being smaller than anything else too. It's like
it is small.
It'll fit into pretty much anywhere you got space for it. Whereas like the Series X is like maybe two of the S's plus a little bit, and even that is still fairly small. It's just shaped differently than kind of previous boxes have been. And then you see like the PlayStation 5, just like that thing is big.
Oh my god, I don't even want to get into it. That thing, I don't know where I'm going to put it if and when I get it.
I don't even.
But I've been.
No, there's no place.
It's huge. It's like 15 inches tall. It's whatever. I've been considering getting the 299S at some point for me because really the only Xbox exclusive that I'm interested in is Halo. Absolutely love Halo, but I still don't like. I'm just conflicted because I do have a 4K TV in the bedroom, which is probably where I'd put the second console anyway. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm really gonna need that extra resolution in something.
The thing with Xbox right now too is like the box is cool, the services are cool. We've got a couple games coming that look cool, but there's still a lot of unknowns of like, okay, well, what am I gonna get that I can only play on Xbox?
Right. Yeah.
We don't know a ton of that yet, so it's still a little bit more of like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna play on it unless I'm gonna play like Halo and a couple other things I know that are coming. And even then, it's like, well, I don't know. Do I need an
Xbox Halo delayed,
or can I play it on my PC if you have one, or or is it something I even care about playing yet another Forza or not? You know that already. It's We don't know any kind of big new things from Xbox either. It's still a little bit of a question mark.
Well, and like I always say with the
There's a lot of things for both consoles that we still haven't seen. Like, where's the UI stuff? Like, what does anything look like right now?
We've seen the UI for the Xbox Series X and S. It's the exact same of that will be the latest update on the current Xbox One. I actually
Gotcha.
Somebody on Twitter said, "Why haven't we seen it?" I'm like, "Here it is," and I sent them a video from like a week ago where they
we had
showed
like a
it.
teaser video. There's like screenshots and stuff of it that they put out.
Whenever you see the latest or the last, I'm going to guess the last update for the dashboard, the fall update for the dashboard for the One, that's what the Series X one will look like. So, and that's cool. I like it. I'm happy with the way Xbox is right now. They've come such a long way with it that I kind of prefer it over PlayStation. So, but yeah, I mean, PlayStation UI.
Care too much about the UI other than like, does it work?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I don't really care what it
They
is.
can always change it.
I just want to know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Look at the Xbox One now versus when it was first launching and still had Kinect and all that, and then like a couple versions in between. Same with like even like the 360 where it started and where it ended up. Like they changed the interface quite a bit over the life of the console. So
well, and the one thing you were talking about, Robert, with the resolution on the S, the other thing you got to think of is, even though it's only does 1440p with games, if you stream, it'll do streaming in 4K. So it'll do 4K Netflix, it'll do 4K.
Yeah, that's true.
Disney Plus or whatever the heck else streaming places they have in 4K. But the other thing too is you're depending on the TV you have, it might even bump that up to 4K. It may do some kind of sampling. My TV does sometimes. It depends on.
No, it's the box.
Yeah. So.
The Xbox One, or not Xbox One, the Xbox Series S will upscale to 4K if you're connected to a 4K TV.
Yeah. So I mean,
just like the current Xboxes do that.
Yeah.
Or at least at least Xbox One X does. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, X does 4K natively anyway. My S did when I had it.
Internally, it might be rendering something different, but it's outputting a 4K signal to your TV if that's what you have it connected to.
Because the one thing that I find interesting with the $299 version is if somebody who, well, my main console is I'm a PlayStation guy, but I'd kind of like to dip my toe in this Game Pass kind of thing and see what that's about.
It'd be a great box just to do that with Game Pass. You'd have tons of stuff to play.
Yeah, you would. And at $10 a month, $15 for the Ultimate, and you can go on Amazon most of the time, and they'll have 3-month cards for $25-$30, or if you do the payment plan thing for 2 years, $25 a month, you get it anyway. So, I mean, there's a lot of options there, and Microsoft is a service company. I mean, I think
Microsoft so far, leading up to this launch, have succeeded in what I'm assuming is at least one of their goals was, hey, let's not screw it up like we did with the last time around. Let's
not botch the messaging.
And they've been working on that too, like through the last few years of just with the Xbox One, with like the different services that they introduced when Game Pass came out and all these other things they built up, so that when they get to this point, they're like, hey, look at all this stuff that it works. It's not something brand new that we're saying, hey, trust us. It's like, it works because we've had it out in the wild for a long time.
Yeah.
And we're just going to keep adding. So that's the thing they've done really well. We just don't have a bunch of insane first-party exclusive games coming out for the box that we know of that we're excited about, because the Xbox One didn't have much outside of just the main ones you think of. So we know Halo's coming. We know there'll be Forza and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not. They don't have as much big kind of story-driven type games that got tons of acclaim like the PlayStation did last time around with like God of War and Spider-Man and a lot of stuff.
All right. And who knows what the future holds for them too, with all these different companies making games that we don't know about.
They have a bunch of studios, and we don't know what every one of them are doing, and also like some of them that we know like what their first thing coming out is. We don't know what their later titles will be once these boxes have been out for a little bit. Right. So I think they've done all the right moves to kind of like put themselves in a good position, and I think also putting these 2 boxes out was something new. It's something different, and it's like a little bit of a Nintendo move of like, let's just do our own thing and shake things up a little bit and see how it works out.
Right. And they didn't have their president of Xbox get on TV and say, "Well, you know, if you want to play, if you want to play games in 1080p, we have a perfect system out right now called the Xbox 360 that you can do that on." that was right there. You might as well just put a gun to his head and pull the trigger, because it was like as soon as they got him on tape saying that, I'm like, "Oh, that was so stupid. Why did you say that?" But you know, what do I know? Yeah. So Sony had their big launch video that we kind of touched a little bit on. $4.99 for the disc version, $3.99 for the discless version. They actually were supposed to go on pre-order Friday. They went on pre-order Thursday night, and the internet lost their minds when they
The whole thing was like stupid because they didn't say anything about pre-orders through the whole video. Then Jeff Keighley is tweeting out like, "Hey, pre-orders start tomorrow," and then like, nope, never mind. Within 30 minutes, they're all like going live on a bunch of retailers, so like everything explodes.
The first thing he's tweeted was, "I'm
It's
hearing
like,
rumors they may come out tonight," and everybody was like, "What?" And he's like, "No, I'm sorry, I misquoted. That was tomorrow." And then all of a sudden, they came out tonight, or that night.
I blame him for that. I blame all sorts of just like slight information that he's getting conflicting stuff,
Well,
and then
and
like someone
that
says,
was
"No, this is right," and then like retailers have decided, "Nah, we want to do our own thing." It was
Yeah.
just a whole bunch of
that
a
was
mess all
all
around.
retailers' insanity, is what that was. November 12th is when it's coming out, and well, in a lot of places, November 19th everywhere else. U.S., Canada, Japan, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, South Korea get it to 12th. Everywhere else in the world gets it to 19th. I didn't even say what the release date was on the Series X and the Series S.
We already knew about that.
Yeah, we already knew about that anyway. It was
Didn't we? Or
November.
I don't know. I don't remember
It's a
what we
couple
talked
days
about
later. See, I
last
don't
time.
even remember now.
Xbox is 10th, and PlayStation is 12th.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know, right? And Cyberpunk's the week after, so.
I mean, we knew that was coming, and we
Yeah.
knew that it was going to be within a short amount of time with the consoles, because everybody was pretty much betting like it's going to be November, right?
Yeah.
And hey, it was. I feel sorry for all of the the tech people who run all of these sites, like store sites, because they had all the PlayStation 5 nonsense in the evening, and then in the morning they had all of the NVIDIA RTX 3080 come out nonsense, where I personally saw this because I was refreshing pages thinking, oh yeah, maybe if I'm super lucky. I didn't even see a buy button. It was coming soon, refresh, sold out.
That was
And
for
then
the NVIDIA
turns
cards?
out that like pretty much it was all bots who got them, and then people put them onto eBay. And then the funny thing that's happened since is a lot of people have gone on eBay to troll all those scalpers to be like, hey, we'll make a bunch of fake bids and push your thing up to $50,000, and then I'm not going to pay you on my new made up account.
Oh, that's
or
hilarious.
People do new listings where they have like a roll of toilet paper that they've wrote like 3080 on, and then the whole description is like, hey, we're trying to discourage scalpers, do not buy this. Or they print out like a piece of paper that says it on there, like, because everyone was wondering, is it a paper launch where there wasn't any actual supply? But turns out, no, they had just as much as kind of when they launched the 20 series cards. It sold out super fast because people are using scripts and all that stuff so they can try and flip them.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of what's going on with PlayStation 5s now. You can go on eBay and
it makes sense as much though because they're pre-orders, whereas this is like actually you're getting it. It's not like a pre-order launch. It's like you buy it and they'll ship to you. So it's like for pre-orders, like I guess you could sell a pre-order on eBay, but who's an idiot enough to buy that?
A lot of people.
A lot of people, I guess. But come on, don't be an idiot. Don't buy a pre-order.
The cheapest one I saw sold for $725, and the most expensive one I saw sold for $950. And that was just the pre-order, which is just beyond me. I don't even understand. Yeah, it's really dumb. It's the dumbest thing I've ever.
It'll be in stores, man. Maybe you have to wait a little bit, and like, cool, I get it. You want it right away.
Well,
but
and here's the thing. So people pre-ordered it. The Amazon pre-orders went up late that same night as the thing, which I guess was Thursday. Then the next day, well, yesterday, or maybe it was today. I think it was today or yesterday. I can't remember. Today or yesterday, Amazon sent out emails that said, hey, if you pre-ordered this, you may not get it day one because stuff may be limited. They're just covering their bases to let people know, hey, this might happen. And the internet lost their minds again. I'm not getting it day one. What a bunch of bullcrap. I've got to have this day one. And in the back of my brain, I'm going, what are you playing on at day one? It's like,
I mean, I don't know, the menus.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. But anyway.
There's actually quite a bit you could play on it day one. And it's like people want the fancy new toy, but like, if you don't get it day one, oh no. Same thing with like the graphics cards. Some people are gotten super, super angry about just like, I couldn't buy it. Like, not as many.
Are there even things that support the graphics cards right away?
Oh gosh, no, probably not.
That's different with the no. You're thinking of it backwards. That's not how graphics cards work. Graphics cards are, hey, I slap this in my machine and I can run all the games I have, much faster, so I get higher frame rates and better performance, and then it does, certain things faster. It's not like, hey, this isn't new games have to come out to be compatible with your graphics card. That's not how
no. I just meant that would take full advantage of the power rather than
there's like games out there
playing
like
your
right
old stuff.
now that have that, plus some stuff coming up like the new Call of Duty and Cyberpunk and stuff, a couple others that they're kind of promoting of just like, hey, if you want the best power for that, get this new graphics card, is why some people want it. But I think it's two things. One, last time the 20 series, when they introduced the ray tracing stuff, it wasn't very much of a power increase at all over the previous generation of cards. It was just like, hey, we're adding this ray tracing thing in. And at the time, there wasn't really any games that did the ray tracing. It just looked kind of cool, and then a few came out shortly after. But over time, there's only not even been that many now that we've got this. But this card, it is a huge power boost. So even just like regular games that don't have ray tracing in it, you'll still probably get quite a big jump in performance. So I want one just because it'll help me, put most games max out my high refresh monitor.
Yeah.
Because right now, I can get, it depends on the game. So like some games I can get, like Minecraft easily maxes it out, but that's because it's Minecraft. But like even like a big AAA game or something like, say, Death Stranding, when I was running that, I was only getting probably 60 to 70 frames per second, which is good. Mm-hmm. But my monitor goes up to 165. So if you can get that, great. That's kind of why I want it. Plus, I don't have ray tracing in my card, so I want the ray tracing mostly for Cyberpunk, because Cyberpunk looks pretty.
Yeah.
But I don't need it. Like, if I can't get it by then, I'll be like, well, I'm slightly disappointed, but I'm not going to be like super angry and be like, hey, angry at the world and it's ruined my entire life. Like, no, it's just like, oh no, I didn't get a graphics card. Oh well, like whatever.
So
it's a neat thing that I want, but I don't need it. It's not like I need it to. I don't eat graphics cards to live. Like, I will be fine.
What?
Same with a new console. Like, yeah, it's a cool new toy, but if you don't get it, you can get it at some point. There will be plenty of them eventually. You're just gonna miss out on this first rush of it.
Right.
It's interesting because there's been so much concern about the numbers of the consoles, and then I think it was either yesterday or today, Sony comes out and says we're going to have more than we had PS4s at launch, and everyone's like, "Oh, okay then, not too bad." And then they also said they'll have more by the end of the year.
Yeah, the same with with the graphics cards. They've come out now and say we're shipping more of them out every couple of days, and especially through all of October is really where we're really we've ramped up enough that we're going to be putting out a bunch of them out, and then anything like this new tech comes out, people are wanting to rush on it. But if you wait just a little bit, the supply evens out. They have time to make a little bit more of them, and then eventually you can just get it. You're not trying to fight the internet to hit a button.
Well, and at some point it becomes, I have to have it day one because I have to have it day one. It's like these are the people that just have to have it.
Where it'll be part of the whole conversation, social media water cooler thing. But and then it's just
I mean, I get that to an extent.
That hype, just looking at all the reviews and people coming out and saying, "Hey, here's what it looks like on here," whatever. You're not playing it, but
I'd like to be able to have a conversation firsthand about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to, but it's honestly, it's not that big a deal. To me, it's more about the games and
even in the games, it's like you've got old games you can play on there, and you've got a couple of the new ones you can still play on your current console because the versions for that are coming out.
Right.
That you can even upgrade for the new console version. Once you get one, it's like there's a couple things you can't play, but for the most part, you could still play pretty much
Um,
anything that's coming out later
Yeah,
this year.
and that kind of puts me in an interesting spot. You know, I was able to, after a lot of stress, secure a pre-order for PS5 just to give myself more time to decide if I want it. I still don't know what exactly I would want to play day one, and nothing really sticks out to me personally. But I did have Cyberpunk pre-ordered, and I'm excited for that. But at the same time, I'm like, well, if I am going to get the PS5, the updated version for PS5 isn't even coming out until next year. So would I really even want to play the PS4 version? And I could wait and have it look better and play a little better. So I don't know. If I do keep the pre-order, then will I wait to get Cyberpunk? And then what am I going to play?
And the one thing I'm tempted is I want Demon's Souls because that game looks really, really cool. But
Demon's Souls was my
don't-
favorite Souls
I
game.
do not believe them when they retracted the "it's coming out on PC" thing, where everyone's like, "Oh, it's also coming to PC," and then they're like, "Nah," but like, I don't believe you. Maybe that one is a possibility, but
well,
when
that
you
one was
have Final
published by
Fantasy
Sony.
and Demon's Souls sitting here with a little note that says like coming later to PC or whatever. That's not exactly what it said, but Demon's Souls, I can see, yeah, it might not come to PC, but Final Fantasy is totally coming to PC. There's no way they wouldn't at this point. After like Final Fantasy 15 came out on PC, did super well, they're totally going to put it out there. There's no reason why they would not.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
as
it might
far
take,
as I know,
it might be like
is.
a year later or whatever. Final Fantasy 16 will be on PC at some point in time. Like, why be cagey about it? Who cares?
I
Like,
was under the impression that it was. I was under the impression
that was one of the ones. So it
Originally, yeah.
So that one in the Sony presentation, big long event thingy, it had "this is footage captured on PC
Right.
simulating PlayStation 5," and at the end it said also come like something about also coming to PC.
Right.
Because it's like a console exclusive star, little fine print at the bottom.
Right.
Says PC, and then later that and Demon Souls they were saying no, that was a mistake. It's not. It's everything. They don't say it's not coming to PC. They're all harping on like trying to like talk around it with PR speak, and but everyone's like, no, like you're still not flat out denying it. It will come to PC at some point. You just want us to buy the new console.
Right. Well, let's talk about launch day games that they did announce for PlayStation 5. Demon Souls, $70. Destruction All Stars, $70. Spider-Man Miles Morales, a $50 game. Unless you buy the Ultimate Edition, it's $70, and it also includes the remaster of the regular Spider-Man game. Sackboy Big Adventure, $60. And the Astro's Playroom, which comes pre-installed with every PlayStation, and I still don't know if I consider that a game or not because, I haven't seen it.
It's almost like Wii Sports
Yeah,
or
it's like
something,
something
except
like
also a
that.
little bit less of a game even than what Wii Sports
Just
was.
kind of
Maybe I guess
shows
we'll
you
find
what
out.
the thing is. Now the thing
Yeah.
is, if you read up on the blog, you read up it says, additionally, we know the PlayStation 4 community will transition to the PlayStation 5 at different times. So Spider-Man Miles Morales, Sackboy, and Horizon Forbidden West will all be available on the PlayStation 4 with free upgrades to PlayStation 5.
It's a weird one for Horizon because we don't know when that one's coming out other than 2021. So
Well-
that makes me think it's going to be early in the year or spring, maybe.
Well, if you read the interview the Washington Post interview that I put in there, according to Ryan, Jim Ryan, they are going to support the PlayStation 4 for another 3 to 4 years.
It's pretty normal. They do that every gen.
Well,
that's what they say, but that doesn't mean that a lot of stuff will actually
Right.
come out for it too. So
and you say that's not unusual. In a way, it
saying
is.
that is not unusual.
Yeah,
they
saying
say that
that-
every single time.
say that
like
every
from
time.
PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4 and now to PlayStation 5, they
But-
say, "Oh, hey, this cool thing that we have like millions of boxes out there for, we'll continue to support it."
Well,
A year later, it's like they might as well aren't.
they will support it third party. It's usually never supported first party, but this time around, it's supported.
That's even a little bit of a fib too, because like think of PlayStation 4, like not in quite the same way, but you did have some stuff from previous generations show up early on PlayStation.
MLB
4,
The Show
especially, like
was cross-gen.
Last of Us
Right, but
and Uncharted Collection and things like that. It's still a little bit different, but it's like taking big PlayStation 3 games and put them on PlayStation 4.
Well,
This
but
time
that's-
around, it's like,
But that's different.
yes, it's
than-
technically different, but it's still the same kind of thing.
Well, I don't count that as the same kind of thing because it's not. That's not
It's
the collection that came out. The Uncharted collection that came out on PlayStation 4 was different than the one that came out on PlayStation 3, of course, because one had, it was up-resed, it was different. It wasn't the same collection that came out because those were just a collection of the PlayStation 3 versions on the PlayStation 3. And they came out before the PlayStation 4. No first-party Sony game has ever been cross-platform before. You can go back to PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 4.
but I think that's just semantics. Like, those games just came out early on in the life of the PlayStation 4, and I'm sure there's other ones
you
I'm
had
not thinking of.
The Last of
This
Us
is the same thing.
remastered.
You're
but
gonna have
was
that
an
game.
entirely $60 game. That wasn't a cross. That was not considered a cross-gen game because it didn't come out when the PS4 launched.
I think we're just talking semantics though too, of the same thing, similar of like what does launch window mean, or cross generational is different versus like, hey, I'm really like, it's still fulfilling a similar function even though you're calling it something different. Yes, it's a collection of games versus this is a game that's being released on 2 consoles at the same time. But like more, especially with like Last of Us, that wasn't that far apart between the remastered version. Yes, it's called something slightly different. It wasn't cross-generational, but it's still taking a big title from PlayStation on one generation and playing it on the next generation. So I think it's kind of silly to say it's never happened. Like, sure, I guess technically with the like cross-generational like phrase, sure, maybe not, but it's not like you can never play games from a previous generation on a new generation of consoles. I don't know. I think it's a whole like a hullabaloo over nothing. It's like silly.
The PlayStation 4 launched November 15th of 2013, and Last of Us Remastered came out July of 2014. That's not a launch window. I mean, that's almost a full year. And to me, that's an entirely different
I think that it's this time around, both companies are like trying to make sure that people have stuff to play early on.
Oh, yeah.
In a different way of like, hey, here's a lot of our old stuff that these great games you might not have played last time around. And whether it's through like a thing like Game Pass, or if it's through kind of like the PlayStation Collection thing, whatever they call it, something like that. There's like, here's all these cool things you can play on our new consoles. We have a few like quote new games, but here's all these other games you might have missed a few of these. You can play those too, and they will play really well. And that's a lot different kind of, I think, than we've had previously, because most in the past it seems like, hey, we have backwards compatibility where you can maybe pop a disc in and play it, but it's not the same thing as kind of what they're doing this time around. So in that way, I think it feels a little bit different.
Well, and this time around, it's more. I'm thinking of it from a Sony fanboy perspective. It's a little jarring because you're not used to that. With other systems and ecosystems, you're used to that. Sony or at Microsoft, Nintendo, sometimes.
I guess, but I don't know. Like, what do you care? Because if you have a PlayStation 5 and you get it on there, it's going to be a PlayStation 5 game. It's going to be a better game than what most launch games are on a console anyway. Like, who cares about Mac anymore, right? Like,
well, that's where some of the weird messaging comes in too, because with Horizon's, what's it called? Horizon Forbidden West or something.
Yeah.
With that one, Sony's saying, oh, but it's built for the ground up for the PS5, but it's launching at the same time as the PS4. So unless they have two completely different experiences that they're giving, I don't know how that's going to work.
In that, like, Sony has been terrible with their messaging, but what I see this as is they could say it's built for the ground up for that. It's like taking a game that is, your main development thing is, say, like PC game or whatever, some powerful thing, and then you make a port of it, down-res port backwards, sort of, or whatever, a down-res version. Similar.
Yeah, but Sony, who believes in generations, it shouldn't be playable with just a simple downgrade. And with them being like, oh, but this SSD is making this possible.
That's the only reason anyone cares about this, is because of their messaging beforehand. If they hadn't been all like, oh, generational, blah, 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 that they had been spouting the messaging this year, no one would have cared about this as much. There might have been a little bit of a blip of like, oh, we don't usually get this with stuff other than third party, but I don't know. I think that
there would have been less blowback.
Yeah.
There'd be less blowback if they had announced it as a PS4 game with a better port coming for the PS5. because now it's like, oh, I'm not getting the best experience that I could.
Well, and
I don't think that's
if
what
they
it
were
is.
really,
and that's what people.
I mean, if you were really doing it with everything
But it's not
that
a
the PS5 had to
PS4 game.
offer,
It is a PS5 game that they're also making a PS4 version of it, similar to what's happened for third-party games for a long time when a console launches. Like,
Or
hey,
is it? See, that's the thing. We don't.
yeah, but
know.
with
We've
those,
got
the
this big-
previous gen game is always significantly worse. Like they're like, oh, don't go get this. Go get the current gen one. Sony first party is not going to give you a worse experience. They can't. They can't just be like, here's a half-assed version of our flagship franchise.
Yeah, and I mean, well, that's
half-assed,
where.
but it will be worse. There's just no way.
Yeah, well, but that's where they're not being transparent about it.
Yeah.
Is it a PS5 version that's downscaled to a PS4, or is it a PS4 version that is updated for a PS5? Which way is it? That to me,
In the end,
I don't care. But
yeah, in the end, if the game is good and it's good on both, whether you
Right.
play it on a PS4 or PS5, who cares? I think the bigger issue is just the way that Sony has been terrible with the messaging, not necessarily the game itself. Like, maybe when it comes out, we'll have a different story because we'll actually be able to see, because we don't know what it looks like now. But I don't know. It's like,
that's the
who
backwards
cares?
compatibility thing for the Xbox One S. If you want to know about that, go look at the Digital Foundry. They
Oh yeah,
did a
Digital
whole-
Foundry's great for comparing versions of things, right?
Well, they apparently they got a hold of the system or talked to somebody, and that's where I read it at. If you want to know more about the backwards compatibility for the Series S, go look up Digital Foundry. It just hit me. So
The fun thing about them, when all of the stuff about the Xbox Series S came out, they put out a video about it, but most of the footage was from back in like May or March or whenever it was that the Series X that they got to go and actually see it. Yeah, it was March because it was before quarantine. They actually got to go to Microsoft and get hands on the hardware, and they'd already had videos out about the Series X. They had footage of them talking about the Series S, so they've known about it since then.
Right.
They got to actually see it way back then, and it's
Oh.
just taken Microsoft this long to announce it.
Here's the other thing. If you ever watched any of those live things they did with Phil Spencer, he had a Series S on the shelf behind him, and nobody ever noticed it. It was literally sitting back there.
They probably
in
thought
the
it was a
video.
speaker.
Yeah, I mean, it just looked like it was sitting on his shelf, and it just looked like a little white box. You would have.
Yeah,
thought,
it was just a white rectangle.
just
It could have been
it
it could have been just like a bookend, you
And
know.
he was
I
like,
mean,
Well,
no
you
one
know,
it's been sitting here the whole time. Just nobody knew what it was. And it was right.
Phil
in front of
Spencer
us,
just
you know.
has a drive-through speaker in his office that he can just be like, "Hey, I want some fries," order them
Yeah.
whenever he wants, right? That's
Sure.
just the Phil Spencer thing,
Yeah,
right?
when you make that kind of money, why not? Yeah, so you were talking about the PlayStation Plus collection. It's for PlayStation Plus members on PS5. You'll get to download a curated library of PS4 games like Batman Arkham Knight, Fallout 4, God of War, Monster Hunter. There was very little about it. If it's going to be any enhanced versions, if it's just going to be straight, ports, if it's going to have any
Straight ports, who cares? That's a lot of good games
Well,
that
yeah,
you can
yeah.
play on there. Like, great,
Right.
awesome, and you're not paying extra than you would just your regular Plus
Right.
subscription.
Yeah.
Cool. Like,
But that's all I'm saying is I just
and they're
feel
all
that they-
quality titles too. So even if it's just a one-time drop collection, that's still pretty cool.
Yeah, and like I said,
Yeah.
they didn't say anything else about it other than that's what it is. We don't know if there's any benefits that other than the SSD that'll make load times faster. If there's any other benefits at all. Backwards compatibility was another question that they really didn't talk about. You had to go to this Washington Post article to hear him talk about. Yeah, there are there's backwards compatibility for several thousands of games. But they didn't say anything about backwards compatibility in that. So their messaging has just, and it's odd for Sony's messaging to be so they're usually better than that. I don't know what's the deal with Sony's messaging. I don't know.
It's so weird because they have completely moved away from all of their personalities that they had in their corporate structure, and every time the new head of US PlayStation pops on, I'm like, who's this guy? Like,
Well, and
you
yeah,
did
he
so
played
well
it.
when you had
Well-
Jack Trenton in there and all those people that I'm just like,
Well, the fun thing this time around is it's not quite as severe, but I think we've got a flip-flop of last console launch where this time Sony's the one who's on top and they're doing some stuff that's messaging-wise. It's just like people are just like a little bit iffy on. It's not the same as with like the Xbox One where it's like, oh, we don't want this Connect and all that. It's not that severe, but
Right.
it's still like the person on top is not doing as well as the person who is like behind a bit and trying better, so they've improved. It's kind of a somewhat similar situation, whereas Sony is just like, hey,
yeah.
you want it.
Yeah.
That's kind of their attitude a little bit.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know if you've ever seen that Simpsons episode where they got two things sitting in front of them, and the guys going, well, but we've got this over here, and then they flip to the other guy, and he just goes, come on, it's kind of the way it's kind of the way you want it, come on,
And it's true. I do want a PlayStation 5 at some point. I
Right.
don't know that I need it right away.
Well, at this point,
That's
I
the
don't-
same with any console, right? Like
At this point, I don't
Yeah.
need it right away because the only
Yeah.
games at launch I would play is Miles Morales, and that game is coming to PS4, so I'm just going to play it there. And Horizon, which when it comes out on PS4, if I have a PlayStation 5, by
we
then,
don't know when
fine.
Horizon's even coming out
Right,
yet
we
either.
don't.
So
So-
it's at least going to be 2021 in like February. I'd say
Yeah.
would be the very earliest, and I highly doubt it's coming out
I
then.
doubt
It's
it.
probably going to be at least
You know,
spring.
And they even
Then it might get delayed, so who knows?
and they did tease God of War for 2021, and I don't even think that'll come out in 2021.
It's going to be
surprised.
holiday 2021. Oh, sorry guys, we have to delay it. It's
Right.
now 2022.
Right, and that's exactly
It's like
what I
we saw
figured
throughout the
was gonna
PlayStation 4, like these big games, and then like we hear about them a lot, and then sometimes they get a date and then get pushed back, or just any big game.
Yeah, and my thing is the game that I'm going to play this this November and December is going to be Cyberpunk. I'm going to have it on my
Oh, yes.
on my Xbox One X. I'm going to be able to play it in 4K. It's going to look nice, and that's fine. It's not going to look any different on a Series S or a Series X or a PlayStation 5 because it's not going to have any of the benefits to it. And who knows when they update it? And I'm not going to sit and wait for.
I think it's going to
6
take them
months.
that long to update, to patch in like ray tracing and that type of stuff. Because
Yeah, I might be making it up, but I thought they said like February.
I don't even.
But
wanna
I
wait
don't
that
know.
long.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Even if it comes out, I'm not going to wait that long because by the time February rolls around, who knows what'll be out that I would be playing.
We've got so many games that are going to be
Yeah.
in 2021 at this point.
It's like if I don't play it when it's out now, chances of me playing it is it's going to be a year or more because something.
Yeah, we keep forgetting we've got like a giant Assassin's Creed game coming out at the same time as these consoles too. Like there's
And that's the
lots
one
of
I'm passing
stuff.
on this year. I'm like, okay, I'll buy it later. I'm not in a hurry to play the Assassin's Creed.
if
game.
Cyberpunk gets delayed, I will play Assassin's Creed. But as long as Cyberpunk stays there, I'm not going to play Assassin's Creed for half a week and then play Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk will stay there. It has to. They'll burn the country down if it doesn't. If it doesn't come. If they delay it one more time.
Here's the thing: if it's not ready, they won't put it out because that's what CDPR
That's
does.
true. You're right. But I think it's probably
They've got enough goodwill with that company that like they can delay it and be fine.
yeah. I mean, at this point, at this point, I can't imagine what else they're probably doing.
It would have to be drastic for them to delay it at this point
Yeah.
because they've been doing all the like Night City Wire streams I think one's a month or something. They've done two
Yeah,
or three
there
of
was
them.
one
They just
was
had one
yesterday.
yesterday. Yeah.
And
PC system requirements came out and they are surprisingly very low.
yeah, and the size of it was pretty low, 70 gigs. I expected it to be
That's
way more than
similar to Witcher 3's
Yeah.
installed before any of the DLC add-on stuff.
that. Right.
Something kind of similar. But yeah, it's like, really?
Yeah.
That's super
And,
low.
well, and speaking of download sizes, we had I saw the IGN article that Miles Morales is going to be 50 gigs. Demon Souls is going to be 66 gigs. If you get the version of Miles Morales with the Spider-Man, the old Spider-Man game, it bumps it up to about 105 or something like that.
Almost doubles it. Hey, 2 games.
Yeah,
Like,
well, shocking. But
weird.
the other thing that I want to know about the PlayStation,
The sizes
is-
don't sound too bad to me.
Well,
It's about
no,
the same as it
they're
was
like-
this gen.
No,
Yeah,
the
that's
sizes
what I
aren't.
would have expected.
Yeah, aren't that bad. Your storage is what's going to be weird because, those speed drives, those SSDs that they require for speed have not come out yet. So I mean, are you going to fill up your hard drive on day one with a PlayStation 4? No, of course not. But I mean, that thing's only 125 gigs with the game that it comes with installed on it, and the operating system. Is that after all that, or is that just the base
What,
of
800 and something is what they
825?
have on the.
That's
Yeah.
what they say.
Yeah.
Which is an odd number anyway. That's why I'm wondering if that's the size, if that's after the stuff's
Yeah,
pre-installed on
because
it, or
if it's 100 and something gigs or whatever for the system plus that, and then they subtract that, that would make it seem like, okay, the drive might be a terabyte, and they're just telling you here's what free
right.
space you have. If that's the case, then like that's fine. It could be
Yeah,
better, but it could be much worse.
yeah, and that's
Or
what I'm
if it's
wondering.
the 800 and then you subtract some off of that, then that's like,
Exactly.
ooh.
Yeah,
So
and that's what
Yeah.
I'm
I want to
wondering.
find that out.
And that's
I lean that way.
well, and
I
that's
mean,
what
sure,
I'm afraid of.
probably.
And then my thing
But I don't
is
care because unlike you, I'm not someone who like installs hundreds or dozens of games at a time. I'm fine with
no, of
cycling them
course
out.
not.
The thing that matters though is for anyone who has, bandwidth caps and
Right.
things like that on their internet that sucks.
Or if somebody goes digital only with, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
and you've got a bunch of backwards compatible, PlayStation 4 games that are digital, you know, as I would guess I could take my PlayStation 4 external hard drive, plug it into the 5, and those games would run off of it. I don't know. Nobody's told us. Do I have to re-download them? Do I have
We're
to?
still in the who knows what it is phase.
Yeah,
I don't know. That doesn't surprise me that something like that hasn't been said. That seems to be things that get lost in the beginning of any kind of recent console launch, and then as soon as it comes out, people will test it, and then we'll know about it because Sony doesn't care about that as much as like some gamers do, right? So they're the ones like you would be paying attention to that, whereas Sony's just wanting to sell the new box,
yeah.
right?
I don't know. To me, it's just weird. That's stuff
Yeah,
that
we have lots of questions, and we're fairly close to when they come out, and it's a little crazy, but in the end, like what it's a console, we'll know all those details soon enough.
yeah. I don't know. For
And
me,
if you don't care to get it at launch anyway, then that's fine. You can
yeah,
plan out like know all the things and then be like, okay, I know all of the like weird gotchas and all of the benefits and the drawbacks, and now I can decide if I want it and get it,
yeah.
halfway through next year or whenever.
Yeah, and that's where Microsoft has been real open about that. They're like, yeah, you can't run you know uh, Series X games off an external hard drive, but you can store them on there, so you can swap them back and forth. Which to me sounds better than installing from a disk. It's got to be quicker. Um,
It depends, but as long as you have a decent hard drive, I'm assuming I haven't looked, but I assume it's USB
it
3
is. It's
or
3.0.
USB-C drives. You could put either
Yeah,
one in there. I don't remember if it has C on there or not. I don't
I don't
remember.
think so. I think it's just
Been a while
3.0.
since I looked at what ports are on the
Yeah.
back of it. But yeah, even just like a USB 3 regular style like drive, it will be slow like compared to the SSD, but if you're just like copying it back and forth, you can be comparable to an install.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, 5 or 10, whatever minutes it takes, depending
Right.
on the size of the game, copy it over, then you're good to go.
Yeah, and you can play, your Xbox One and 360 and Xbox games off that hard drive. You just won't get the load times that you'd get with the SSD, which I mean,
It'd be comparable to what you get now, right?
yeah. So it's like what you get now. So what difference does it make? I mean, you don't know what you're missing until you try it. But
Or even then, like, okay, you're like, this game, I don't care because it's got decent load times. And this game, oh, it was terrible, so that's the one I will prioritize putting onto the actual system,
right,
right?
yeah,
So you get options.
yeah. I don't know. It's weird. DualSense controllers are $69.99. That's actually cheaper than I thought they were going to be. I figured they were going to be about $80.
What are the current ones? Are they also 69 or are
I
they 59 at this
think they
point?
were 59. You know
Yeah.
what? I haven't bought one. Every
I
time
haven't bought one in
I haven't
forever, so
bought
I
one
don't
in
know.
forever, and the one that I did buy was on clearance for $25 brand new. So it's like I'm not
There
the
you
one to
go.
ask you how much or not the one to ask. But let's see, DualShock 4. Is
I
they
mean, it's not like an insane price for a controller, I don't think, at this point.
I think
So,
DualShock 4s were
yeah.
50.
yeah, and they're depending on the color you buy now, they're 59 to 64. Some of the different color ones are a little more expensive. I actually had to look that up because, like I say, I haven't.
It's not, say, like some of the accessories that when the Switch first came out, you're like, why does this cost this much?
Right. Yeah.
There are a few of those that you're like, that's a fairly
I hope
simple
the battery
thing.
lasts
Why?
longer.
Yeah.
That's my question. Yeah, is how long the battery?
However, it is going to charge faster.
Yeah. Well, that is a
Just because
plus.
it's going to have higher throughput on the cable it's on now. So,
Yeah, the USB-C.
but yeah, like give it an extra, even like a couple hours over the current one, and that'll be like much better.
Yeah. Oh
If
yeah.
you can get all the way to like the Switch Pro controller battery life, then awesome, that'd be even better.
That's
But
why I like this controller. It's USB-C. It charges super fast. I can swap my stickies out. And when I get a Series S, all I do is just update it, and boom, works on Series S. Awesome. That works for me, especially if I'd have been one of the guys that paid $150 for that controller. I would, but I didn't. So, but I mean, let's see. The 3D wireless headsets are $99, which is not bad for dual noise canceling microphones, and it supports the 3D audio that the system supports. So that's kind of cool. $100. I don't
well,
think
like that's weird because like the 3D audio they're talking about is still stereo headphones.
right.
It's not like you're getting, it's not like, say, the actual headphones that have the 7.1 blah 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 in it. It's
Right.
still, the 3D audio is more just like the algorithms and stuff that they put into the box so that it gives you like that spatial
Yeah.
sounding, but it's just kind of how it processes it versus, hey, these headphones are different.
The other interesting accessory is the HD camera. 1080p lenses is $60. I'm going to guess that the PS4 camera will not work on that. And my other question is, if I have a PlayStation VR that is backwards compatible with the 5, do I need that HD camera for it to work? Or will there be an adapter that I can use my PS4 camera to work on it?
What does the PS4 camera connect with? Just
It's
USB?
USB.
No,
No, wait.
no,
Doesn't it
it's
have
Or
that
is it
weird
the,
it's
proprietary
got a
one?
proprietary port on it. Yeah, there's
and
a
the
camera
PS5
port.
doesn't have that port?
That I don't know. I haven't seen the back end of the
We haven't.
PS5 to be able to tell you.
Yeah, we've seen all of the back of like the Xbox
Yeah,
consoles, but
haven't
yeah.
seen the back of the.
There is
Alright.
actually a picture that came out, I think, earlier today.
Is
You
there?
would
That
hope
does show
that
the
if
back.
they have said that PSVR is backwards compatible, that it would be able to just plug in with what you've already got, or like you can get an adapter would be the second
And they may
thing.
have said
But
that you can get an adapter for
I don't know.
maybe free. I don't remember now. Yeah, that's my question.
We had that thing
Okay.
a couple shows ago where we were talking about all of the like weird accessories compatibility with PlayStation 5 that they put out on their blog, and even the messaging there was a little bit confusing.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, PlayStation.
The
4
back does
camera,
not have that proprietary one.
Right, and PS4 camera will require. Yes, I'll accept the cookies for your website. PS4 camera will require a free adapter for PS5. So yeah, there is an adapter that will come out that will allow that camera to work on it. You just gotta.
How long do you think until they put a new version of PSVR, or if they will do a new version of PSVR?
They say they're going to do a new version of it. I'm guessing 2 years. I don't know. They've been really coy about exactly their VR. Other than they said there's a PSVR 2 coming, but that's all they've said. I'm going to say at least 2 years, but that's just.
I mean, I guess it would give them some splash where it's like, okay, here's a new version of PSVR and here's all the cool games we're putting out for it, but they don't want to do that right away, so they're spreading out kind of so they can get a little bit more buzz over time, maybe. But the other thing is just like, other than, I guess, Half-Life Alyx was the last time something VR had a big splash, which was, I guess, technically earlier this year, aka 500 years ago.
Time has no meaning anymore.
I had forgotten about that at first. I was like, wait, no, okay, Half-Life Alyx would have been the last kind of big VR thing, and that was this year. So.
And the last big VR thing on PlayStation VR was the Iron Man VR game, and it kind of came out and went. It wasn't.
I was like, was that even big? I remember seeing that it was coming, and then I didn't even know it'd come out.
It came, they had a bundle, and then it just kind of, nobody talked about it. So, and I've still considered buying it, but it's last on its last on my list at this point with everything else coming out. It's like
Also, maybe you could get it on clearance for $10 brand new, knowing
hey,
you, right?
maybe, who knows? If I wait long enough, I probably can. But yeah, so it's a crazy week with crazy.
But this is a crazy fall for just like video games and gamer technology between the two new consoles and then new graphics cards coming out. AMD is going to be announcing their new graphics card stuff in late October.
Yeah.
Like everybody's willing to buy the new tech in one version or another, and all the online retailers are melting and crashing. It's going to be a crazy couple of months, probably.
It's crazy. But, it's funny. I watched everybody just lose their mind over, I can't get pre-order for 5. And the Amazon pre-orders come up, and I told Robert, I said, I know you're looking, Amazon's got them up. And Robert went, I can't pre-order it. It's not coming up for me. I literally clicked on it, added it to the cart, and bought it, and went, yeah, it works fine for me.
There was so much
like
craziness.
It didn't bother me at all. And everybody online's going, oh my god, and I'm going.
Now, here's a weird idea.
It just went. Boop, 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 boop,
what if online retailers had a extra layer of information? Let's say so. Right now, they do pre-orders like, okay, here's all the ones we know we're kind of going to get, and then we're going to cut them off.
Yeah.
What if they had that period, and then after that they had you can still order it, but you are not going to get it right away. We will get it to you when we get them. And maybe even an estimate of it might take X amount of time. What if you could still just that way everyone's not like, oh crap, I can't put an order. You can put an order in knowing full well that you might not get it for a few weeks or something. But that way you don't have to worry about like, hey, do I have to jump on it at a certain time to try and get it when they appear for 5 minutes?
I don't know. Okay, since I've started buying action figures again, this is something that online retailers, well, not the big online retailers. There's a lot of small online retailers that I buy figures from. That's what they do. They literally open up pre-orders and they say, it's going to be this really super popular Boba Fett action figure that everybody wants. I can literally pre-order it, and I may get it the day it comes out, but they don't put a date on it. They're just like, you'll get it when you get it, and that's the way it is. And some people may get them tomorrow. Some people may get them in a week from now, and I don't understand why they don't do that with consoles.
Well, think of like, how Amazon has like their deal of the day things or whatever with like a bar that has a limit and you can see it go away. Like, what if that was like you're guaranteed to get it pre-orders, the bar goes away, and then you can pre-order it, but then you'll get it later,
Right. And I'm fine with that, but I don't know, maybe
I'm sure there's reasons why they don't do it that way. I don't know. I just think it would be a little bit friendlier because, like, if you don't care that you get it on release day, but you still want to get your order in and knowing that you might get it in a month or however long, like another week even, depending on how supply goes, like, why not?
Yeah.
That would also let them judge demand of like, okay, oh crap, we know that we've got this many people who are ordering it and know they want it. We need to make sure that we're shipping it out to wherever those got ordered.
Right. Yeah. And that's
I would love to see
scattershot, right?
Yeah.
I would love to see that world where they they have their initial shipment, you cut it off, and then they just open it up for whenever we get more in stock. That'd be great. But all I'm asking for is that they actually do what they initially said they were going to do and be able to have a website that's not going to crash. I mean, for months I've had their placeholder website bookmarked where they're like, this is where our pre-orders are going to go live. You can see their information that's here right now. And then I went to that website and it didn't go live. And then there was a tweet. This is going to be where it's going to be. Great. And then I sent myself that tweet the night before. And I went to go open up that page after I heard all the rumors that the pre-orders were going down. And then it was a 404 error page. I'm like, cool. And then there was the page that John sent me, which did take me to a place that said, would you like to add this to your cart? And I clicked, add it to the cart.
That was the thing.
And
the link I
it was like, this isn't available.
Yeah, it wasn't
like, what do you mean?
Well, the thing is that the link that I sent him wasn't even like a buy page. It was like, there was a little line of text that went, PlayStation 4, add to cart. Would you like to add this to the cart? Yes. And you clicked it, and it was magically in your cart. It wasn't like I could say, go on Amazon and search PlayStation 5, and you will find this link. It was like a hidden
and if you did search, there was nothing that came up.
It's like some hidden secret thing that I have no idea how anybody found it, but I saw it on Twitter, and I sent it right on to him, and he couldn't get it, and boy, I just...
Yeah, immediately. And like, I saw that message, I went straight to it. It was within a minute. I'm refreshing, and it's like, unavailable. Format minutes later, I'm like, John, I can't get in. And he's like, oh, weird, I just did it. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I was like, oh, weird. Let me see. Yeah, I got it just fine. And it was like, and then I just immediately went, well, okay, I'm going to cancel it. You know.
yeah.
It was
I mean,
like,
I had all but given up, and I was laying in bed, and I couldn't fall asleep because I was just so annoyed with the whole thing. And I don't know, it was maybe 10:15, 10:20 my time. So what is that, like 3 in the morning East Coast time ish,
4
around
o'clock
there?
East Coast.
4 in the morning. I'm just browsing on my phone, and all of a sudden I see a link on, I think it was Facebook, and it was just like, oh, Walmart's getting more in stock. And I was like, oh, okay, sure they are. And I click on it, and it took me to the Walmart page, or I'm sorry, Best Buy page. And I go there, and it's like, okay, so it's saying I can add it to my cart. I go to checkout. It didn't work. It said it's currently unavailable again. I'm like, son of a, okay, whatever. And then I just so happened to refresh it again. And that time it actually worked, and it went through. And I fully expected the next morning to get an email and say, oh, sorry, we're actually going to have to cancel this. But so far, nothing. We'll see.
Stupid thing. You're not getting any more in stock. You're just like, you added like, okay, now 10 more people can pre-order or whatever number it is. It's not like there's an actual product yet.
Right. And then
Yeah.
and I always tell everybody, just follow, if you're on Twitter, follow Wario64 online. That man works freaking magic with he'll, I mean, I don't know how he does it. Apparently that's all he does is sit around and find these things, but that's how I got links to everything.
Yeah, none of it made any sense. And the next day, I was like, you know what, fine, cool, I got that pre-ordered. Let's go back to Amazon and see if I can get an extra controller and the charging dock, just in case. Yeah. And I was able to add the controller, not the charging dock. And then I waited another day, and then I could add the charging dock. And I'm just like, is it just people canceling their stuff, or is it just Amazon being like, you know what, I think I'm just going to open this up for this IP address today. We'll see.
Yeah,
see
well, and they may just be
some of it. I don't know what Amazon
a little bit instead of trying to crash the site.
Well, there's also some where they have some behind the scenes where they're going to take away from, like, say, a illegitimate order from a bot or whatever. They can do some stuff, but it takes some manual processes to do that, and then they throw them back in the system. Perhaps, I don't know if they're doing that or not, but that could be part of it.
It's like, Robert's IP has refreshed his page 101 times now. Let's go ahead and let him in.
Well, the other thing that I wonder too, especially with somebody in your case, doesn't matter that you're in Hawaii. I mean, can they?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they wait for time zones to hit a certain spot before they put them through.
I don't know.
But I mean, if that's the case, then communicate it. Like, that's fine. I don't need to be the first one to pre-order it, but I need to know what to expect. Otherwise, I could have just given up and not done it because I thought I missed out when I didn't.
I'm happy that this is the first time in a long time that I'm not buying a console on launch day, and I'm kind of happy about it because I don't have to do all that crap if I don't want to.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's weird for me because, for so long I worked at GameStop, so I was like, I don't even have to really worry. Like, I know I'll be working when these pre-orders go live, and I'll put my $50 down on it, and it's fine. I'll work the midnight launch, and then afterwards I'll go take my system home. No big deal. But now it's like, oh, I'm caught up in all this again, and it's worse than it ever has been. Like, before I could just camp out and it'd be fine. But right now, I'm not going to go camp out in today's world right now.
It's like in GameStop, in store, they started coming up immediately after that. You could go to a GameStop store and walk in there and go, I would like to pre-order. And most managers said they only most stores loaded 14 pre-orders for the regular and 5
that sounds
pre-orders
right.
for the digital. That's all GameStop loaded. Because, like I said, they're not sure. So, and GameStop is we're going to close 400 stores, and it may be this store, so I'm sure they're not going to want to take a ton of pre-orders and then have to shuffle crap around. I mean, that's the other thing. So, I don't know.
GameStop, in the past got hurt real bad when they over pre-ordered things, and they had to tell people that they canceled. So they're very cautious about that. Yeah. And then they'll announce, oh, we're getting more pre-orders if the time comes. I
mean, I've gotten the new console, whoever, for 20 years. I've always gotten it day one. Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox. I didn't get a PlayStation 3, but I did get a 360. Stood in line at midnight on...
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't get it on
with you.
Day. I got it on New Year's Eve. They got the next wave in. Me and my wife stood in Randleman, North Carolina Walmart at New Year's Eve, and when
Yeah.
the bell hit midnight, we bought an Xbox 360 that year.
And that was similar to this generation where they both kind of came out within a few days of each other.
Yeah.
And I camped out in front of a Circuit City for 3 days, 2 nights, for my PS3 launch model. And this was in Ohio in November, so it was cold, you know. And then there I was a couple days later with my brother because he wanted the 360, and we were chilling inside a Walmart for 16 hours in the layaway area.
The launch that I remember the best was Xbox, the original Xbox and the GameCube both launched the same week. I think original Xbox launched on like a Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was a Thursday night, Friday, and then the GameCube was on Sunday. And I had pre-ordered an Xbox, picked it up that Thursday night at or Friday night at midnight, whatever. And I was sitting in church on Sunday morning in the choir with my buddy, and I literally leaned over to him and goes, "After church, let's go over to Walmart. I think I'm going to buy a GameCube." "You just got an Xbox?" Yeah, I think I want a GameCube. And literally after church, we went over, and I didn't have to stand in line. It was a Sunday. Literally walked over to the electronics counter and went, "I'd like that GameCube." "Okay, here you go, thanks." But it was a launch day. Nobody cared. Nobody was camped out. Nobody was, anything. I don't know. Things are so weird with, but at this point, there's just nothing driving me to get either one of them day one. There's just not. If I was going to get one day one, I would probably get an Xbox over a PlayStation 4 because I can play, because I know backwards compatibility. I know more. And it's like, I could say the same thing about PlayStation 5. I assume all the games I have on PS5 will work. I mean, I guess.
My problem is neither one of them is more exciting than Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
So Cyberpunk is the thing I know I can play it easily. I was planning on playing it on PC, so I'm going to play it there. And if I get a new graphics card to make it a little shinier, great. If I don't get it, I can still play an awesome game.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm going to play it on Xbox One X. So there you go, 4K, whatever. Yeah.
And I have 2 PS4s. I have my launch model and a Pro model, and I would definitely be getting rid of probably my launch model if I do keep the PS5 and give my wife my PS4 Pro. But for me, it's like I need to know which games are not backwards compatible. Sony said that 99% of all PS4 games are going to be playable on there. I'm like, that's great, but like
1%.
Yeah, like I still play.
I have the ones that you can't.
Yeah, exactly. Like I play Final Fantasy 14, quite frequently with my wife, and if I can't download that and play it, and that's like the one game that I would be concerned that I have that wouldn't be backwards compatible, just because of the client and all that stuff. Yeah. I'm like, if that's not playable, right? Yeah, I don't need it day one. I really just don't need it. I want it. I don't need it. And if I can't play what I'm already playing, then that's a problem.
Yeah, to me, it's $500 I don't have to spend, but I can go ahead and spend $50 on the game that I would buy with that console anyway, and buy Spider-Man and be done with it. I mean, I don't know. The thing about it is when it comes out too, it's it's coming around the holiday. I know there's a lot of people who's going to buy it day one, and I understand that consoles and video games are usually not affected by the economy, but I just can't imagine. But who knows what the economy is going to look like when November rolls around. At this point, a lot of people could pre-order it now and not get charged until it comes out. So, they may, well, I hope I have a job by then, or I hope work's better by then, or I hope, who knows what the world's going to be. If we all get locked up again in November or December, here we go.
Oh, I'm locked up right now. I'm on my second shutdown.
Yeah. See, I'm not. I'm footloose and fancy free. I've been of course I've been footloose and fancy free this whole lockdown. When everybody was, "Oh, I'm in a lockdown," I'm like, I'm not. I'm out working. You guys have fun with that. It's like, my wife was happy to go back to school because she'd been locked down. She hadn't been out since March, and it was like, "Oh, I get to go back to school and work. Okay, I'm going back to school because I got to get out." So,
Yeah, I've been working like 12, 16-hour days just from home.
Yeah, and that's what I say. People, find out real quick that you work harder and longer when you're working from home than you did when you go in and punch a clock. Don't shake your head, Nathaniel. It's not.
No, I've been working from home, and I've been
Well,
I'm very strict with I'm still keeping the same hours as when I was going in the office. I was doing like half and half anyway before lockdown. We were half days working at home and half in the office, so we were kind of a weird hybrid schedule anyway. So now we're just full time.
Yeah.
At home
Yeah.
for my job, but it's just like, nope, I need that separation. I'm gonna be like, here's the time I'm online. If there's a day that I have a little extra time or something, I'm not gonna do it more than I would if I was in the office.
Right. And
And
that's what you
then
have to
shut
do.
that laptop down and go do whatever I want, even though I'm still at home. It's like, okay, work day's done. Now it's normal,
Right.
evening time at home.
And if you could do that, that's great. And
Yeah,
that's
not
the
everybody
way.
can.
Not
Yeah.
I'm
everybody
glad
can.
that
and
I've been able
that's-
to, because I would have
yeah.
been way more stir crazy and just going nuts if I had been having to work that hard at home, like extra hard, just because of stuff is like been
For sure.
nicely
And
worked out that way for me.
Yeah.
I'm very, very fortunate that my company does not ask me to work any more than I normally would have. I'm just
Right.
took it upon myself to work an extra job. So that's on me.
Well, that's your fault then. That's crazy.
Yeah, working that second job like a person who
Like
needs to have income.
Working that second job like a chump.
Stupid me.
Like, gotta pay
Yeah.
bills.
Pay bills. Who cares? Who cares? Yeah. What's days and money and bills? What's all that about?
I would say I'll just become homeless, but the beaches are shut down too. So
Well, see, you can't be a beach bum, so what's good in that? It's like, yeah. Okay.
yeah, I guess I'll just work twice as hard to have a roof.
Might as well. I mean, why not, right?
It's a weird slight side benefit if you're in Hawaii that if you're homeless, at least there's a beach.
Yeah.
But now if you can't do that, then like, come on.
At least it's sunny and it doesn't get too cold. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I can't say, but we can laugh and tease about it. I mean, but yeah. So
No place is perfect.
no place. Is
Yeah,
perfect.
every place has its own, good things, its bad things. It's, hey, this is the natural disasters that we get in this area. Like,
Yeah, I'm
it's
glad.
just different flavors.
I'm glad I live in an area where we don't usually get to natural disasters. I live in a nice valley where, if we get a bad thunderstorm, that's good. But I can't get a hurricane. I can't get an earthquake. You don't get earthquakes. You don't get hurricanes. You don't get tornadoes.
I mean, here's not bad where I'm at because we get the occasional like hurricane
Yeah.
something, but I'm not at the coast or anything, so it's just more like it's kicking up some high winds maybe if
We
it
may
hits
get
us
a-
just right, or if it's like kicking up separate storms that come through, but it's
Right.
usually not too bad.
We may get a
At
big
least since
storm
I've been here.
and snow. We may get snow every once in a while.
Yeah.
But, I can deal with it for the snow once a year. It's fine.
It was misting earlier. I was worried that I wasn't going to have blue skies for the video.
It rains in Hawaii? I didn't know it rained in Hawaii. Does it really? Wow.
I'm in one of the wetter areas too.
Wow, I didn't know it got wet over there at all. I just assumed every day it was, sunny and blue sky and,
Every day is sunny with a chance of misting.
it's kind of like Florida. It's every day sunny, but there's also a chance of rain.
Yeah, 4 o'clock rolls around, you get rain for 10 minutes, and then hey, there you go.
Yeah,
it went
there
away
you
again.
go. Just enough to wet that ground. All right, we'll see you guys later. Y'all have a good one. All right, well, we're going to call that a show. I know it's an odd day and time for us to record, but like I say, if you want to join us live, follow us at GL_podcast. I try to tweet out a couple hours before we're going to go live, and you can always come out and hang out with us as long as I'm not having technical issues with a brand new friggin' computer. But, whatever. I'm not bitter at all. So, and it's not the computer's fault.
So much as the software. It's like, oh, you put me on a new computer? Oh, man, I don't want to have to work good.
That, so, so,
It's never user error.
No, it's never user
Never.
error. It's not user error and it's not computer error, so it has to be software error, and that's who I blame is the software. Because, like I said, I had it all perfect before. I don't know how it changed, but it changed. But anyway, but like I always say too, if you if you get it on the podcast feed, you don't know. It's to you. You get it whenever I put it up and give it to you, so it's all good. So, all right. Well, we'll hopefully be back in 2 weeks. It'll probably be a Saturday. We'll see how things go. I have some work coming up out of town for a couple weeks. So, like I say, follow us on Twitter and you'll know when we're going to be hosting new shows. So, All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for hanging out with us and listening, and we will catch you guys next time.
Later.